Labonta, give and go. Luera, tough angle, playing it in front. Goal for Kansas City!
What's up, everyone, and welcome to Run It Back, your exclusive Just Women's Sports look into the NWSL playoff picture presented by Nike. I'm Madison Hammond.
And I'm Haley Kopmeyer.
What incredible games we had on Sunday night. But before we get into those, let's check out the Player of the Year nominations.
All right, so up for MVP, we've got Dabinia, Naomi Girma, Alex Morgan, Mallory Pugh, and Sophia Smith. Up for Defender of the Year, we've got Alana Cook, Naomi Girma, Sofia Huerta, Carson Pickett, and Becky Sauerbrunn. Up for Goalkeeper of the Year, Adie Franch, Kaylin Sheridan, and Fallon Tullis-Joyce. And finally, Rookie of the Year, Sam Coffey, Naomi Girma, and Diana Ordonez. I feel like I just said Naomi's name about 300 times. What do you think of this list?
I was going to say, if Naomi's not being included for Goalkeeper of the Year, I don't know. She just...
Yeah, we might just have to give it to her, honestly. Yeah, she's just going to have to work harder in the off season. You got to think she takes one of these, right?
I mean, she definitely has to. I mean, she's been one of the most consistent players in the NWSL the entire year, and she's had a lot of success internationally. So I think that she should be very proud of this first year, and her ceiling is really high.
Really, really high. MVP, this for me might be the hardest one to pick because we've had so many players that have had incredible seasons. I mean, you can't not talk about Alex Morgan this year, truly having one of the best NWSL, years of her career. Dabinia at the end, she came on so strong. Do you have any predictions on this one?
I do think that the prowess that is Dabinia is insane. I always say that she can just put the team on her entire back, and the fact that the NC Courage was able to go from the bottom to almost being able to compete for playoffs is really impressive. But at the same time, Alex Morgan has just been doing Alex Morgan. I mean, the fact that we'll get into the game the other night, but to be able to put not only her team, but the city on her back has been really impressive to watch.
I agree. I don't see a world in which she doesn't take that this year, but I guess we'll find out soon. To cast your votes, please visit nwslsoccer.com. Everybody gets a voice in this, so definitely let them know who you think should win all of these awards.
All right, let's jump right into these Sunday night games. The energy is insane, and now let's talk about these matchups. First up, as you know, we had the KC Current take on the Houston Dash in an extremely physical game that was the first playoff appearance for both franchises. The Dash broke the attendance record for NWSL playoffs with 21,284 fans in the crowd, and the energy was absolutely incredible.
KC started us off early. Kristen Hamilton drew the foul. I agree with the refs on that one. I think it was a PK all day, and then when Lo LaBonta steps up that she is going to bury that ball, and she did, and then we got that iconic KC Current celebration that we've been getting all year long.
There was a bit of a pause before the celebration started, and as I was watching the game, I was just like, what do they have planned for this game? Because it's such a big moment, not only for their club, but for the future of their club, and also just to kind of cap off Lo LaBonta's really impressive season leading this team.
Yeah, she's been absolutely outstanding. Another player who's truly had probably the best season of her career.
Most definitely. But then Houston Dash made sure that they weren't going to be left out of the game. Sophie Schmidt hit the equalizer off a set piece at the 20-minute mark, breathing some life back into the stadium. The game stayed even until the 100th minute, until Kate Del Fava snuck behind Jay Campbell and punched the Current's ticket to the semifinals versus the OL Reign. And fun fact, that was Kate Del Fava's first goal in the NWSL. I think that goal couldn't have come at a better time.
And then Kate was trying to crank the stats quickly. Was that your first ever goal in NWSL history?
First ever? Oh my God! I thought it was just this year. Oh. Kate, that's nice.
Utah.
Oh my God, yes. That's wild.
Yes, it was my first one.
Let's go. Yeah, soak in the moment. How do you feel, man? I'm turning this interview back on you.
Great.
How are you processing all this?
I haven't yet, but I'm excited to know. Good timing. That's all I'll say.
Truly couldn't have come at a better time. The Dash played a really, really good game. It was kind of sad that this one didn't almost go into extra time. I know the players, well, at least the KC Current, were happy it didn't go into extra time. But for Kate, I think what I like about this is all game, she was matched up against Maria Sanchez. It felt like Maria was having the better of her a little bit. And then she goes and becomes the hero of this game. I think that's probably the coolest part about soccer, right? Is you just got to fight, and take your chance when you get it. And Kate did that.
I think also it's the fact that this was in the 100th minute. These athletes were absolutely exhausted. You could just see that the game was starting to stretch. And to your point, I think Maria Sanchez was having a very impressive game. But the fact that Kate Del Favo was like, I'm going to put my head down, make sure I'm in the box, and Alex Loera just laying across a perfect cross.
And Alex stepping up in the absence of Desi Scott. So again, so many cool storylines in this one. But we had another game, NWSL After Dark. You know they're always going to bring the chaos. This game was no different.
So for our second game, the Chicago Red Stars visited the San Diego Wave, who broke the Dash's playoff attendance record set only hours before, with 26,000 fans cheering on their team. San Diego is the first expansion team to make the playoffs in their first year, while Chicago has punched their playoff ticket for the 7th straight year.
And the game started off, I think, in a way no one could have expected. An error, a very uncommon error by Kaylin Sheridan. Yuki puts that ball in the back of the net. She scores 10 minutes in and puts Chicago up early on the road.
I was honestly shocked. I think Kaylin Sheridan is one of the most consistent goalkeepers probably in the world.
She's unbelievable.
I mean, if I was going to rely on anybody, it might be Kaylin Sheridan, except for Didi at my own team. But I think that, it's nerves. You're in this really big moment. This fans are probably screaming and are extremely loud, and Kaylin just had, unfortunately, a slip up. And I'm sure for the rest of the game, because it happened so early, she was just stressing the entire time.
Yeah, and I think that's it, is, great goalkeepers and great players, if you make a mistake, they come back, they do what they need to do the rest of the game, and that's exactly what she did.
Definitely. It was late in extra time, and she had a very impressive save to keep San Diego in the running. But moving on to San Diego's home crowd. San Diego's home crowd had incredible energy throughout the entire game, and it was only fitting that none other than Alex Morgan scored the game winner in the second extra time to seal the game. Even though I'm supposed to be their rival, it's truly incredible to see an expansion side write their own narrative and create their own success. And I think all of their success is a sign of the progress for this league, and it makes it more exciting to invest in our success as players.
100%. Emily Van Egmond, she helps them come back late. I think, she scores a late game goal, and then Alex in extra time. Again, that is truly the definition of putting the team on your back, taking your opportunity when it comes. And it had to be Alex who sent them on through to the semifinals.
And now looking ahead to next weekend, it's time for Championship Chat presented by Nike. We have the San Diego Wave versus the Portland Thorns and Kansas City Current versus the OL Reign.
All right, I think right away we got to address the elephant in the room, and you were actually a part of this last season. So last year, again, Portland and Seattle went 1-2, although it was flipped. They had the international break. They then had their bye week where they got to sit and watch the playoffs, and then going into the semifinals at home, both teams lost. Is it a curse? Was it just mishandled? Was it coincidence that those two other teams played great in that time? I want your take on this.
Yeah, I definitely think as this has played out, it has felt a little bit like deja vu. I remember last year we felt super prepared going into that game. And I think once the game started, it felt like everything just shifted. And I think that's the craziest thing about bye weeks is that you want the rest, especially for those international players. OL Reign is stacked with a ton of international players who have been traveling all year. And I'm sure they're really going to be grateful that they have this extra week. But at the same time, it's like, how do you make sure that you're still fresh? Because these other teams have put in extremely tough shifts with 100+ minutes. And so they're going to be coming in, they're still going to be hungry, but are they going to be a little bit fatigued? So I think it'll be interesting to see how those two extremes play out against each other.
Absolutely. Because I think, again, if this happens this year, you almost don't want the bye. It almost comes down to it where you're like, do I really want that bye? But again,
how do I play for third place?
Yeah, they now have the chance to right the ship. And I think, we'll see if they do it this weekend. What do you got? What are your big keys to the game?
So going into this game, both Kansas City and the OL Reign walked away with a win in the regular season. I think for the Reign, the biggest key is to exploit that space on the weak side of the Current's really aggressive three-back system. It has a tendency to kind of get caught out in moments of transition, especially with Haley Mace bombing forward and trying to get into the attack. So I think it's really important that players like Quinn and Jess Fishlock are really key in switching the point to get Sofia Huerta involved in the game, because I think the Reign generates a lot of their opportunities from those crosses. She can hit them, she can hit it early, she can get end line. And so I think that that's something that Kansas City is really going to have to focus on. But on the flip side, Kansas's counter press is almost suffocating at times. It really allows them to release their wing backs to apply pressure on another team's outside backs, and in this case, Lou Barnes and Sofia Huerta. So if Kansas is able to do that, they can really pin the Reign deeper in their own half and make it more difficult to get those crosses in and to get involved into the attack. So I think the more pressure that Kansas can put on the Reign under and the more problems they can create for their back line, I think the better off they'll be able to manage the game.
I think that's a really good point. And you saw it in that last game. I think Kristen Edmonds had to kind of bail Casey out 2, 3, 4 times in that game where she was just the last man in a 1v1. In that game, she was able to do it. So you're right, that 3-back, it's very aggressive. Can the Reign take advantage of it?
Yes, definitely.
Awesome. In the other game, in the Portland-San Diego game, again, I thought when Sofia Jakobsen came in, she was the difference maker for the San Diego Wave. Will we see her earlier? I'm expecting that she'll either probably sub in earlier or maybe she'll even get the nod, but I think she was a huge difference maker for them. For Portland, I feel like just the end of the season, they had that 3-3 tie with Gotham. It felt like they were in control, and then they sort of let it slip away. And I kind of feel like that's Portland's kryptonite, right? It doesn't always necessarily feel like Portland's getting beat, but sometimes it feels like Portland's beating themselves in some ways. And they just sort of have these mental errors or lapses at the end. I think if they can keep a really tight ship, they got a good chance of winning this game.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel as though Portland, of course, is going to be looking to Sophia Smith to step up and have a really big game. But to your point, I do think that Portland has this tendency to kind of start beating themselves and playing a little bit, I don't want to say lackadaisical, but it kind of gets a little casual, especially moving throughout the back. And so I think it'll be really important for Portland to lean on the veteran experience of a Becky Sauerbrunn to be like, you have to lock in, you have to be ready for this game. And then for San Diego, I agree with Jakobsen's performance. I think that I really just love that she is aggressive and wants to take players end line and get corners. But there was a couple times late in that game where she was able to cut inside. And if she's able to do that, I think that it will cause the back line of Portland to really be second guessing themselves.
So, we know the keys. What are your predictions?
My predictions.
Your predictions. If you're if you just had to guess.
I think predictions are so tough. I mean,
predictions are tough.
Having played on both of these teams' rivals, I think I'd be okay with neither San Diego or Portland advancing. But I think that the Portland-San Diego game will go down to the wire, full drama. We're going to end in penalties, and the Wave are going to advance. And then on the flip side, I think that OL Reign is just firing on all cylinders. You have Megan Rapinoe, who's had an incredible last 6 weeks, and like Alex Morgan, has really put the team on her back. So I think the OL Reign will spoil the Kansas City Currents party and win 2-1.
I like that we got a full score prediction there. I actually agree with you. I do think that the Wave will win. I think if they can take it to PKs, you definitely don't bet against Kaylin Sheridan in that moment. She's absolutely phenomenal at penalty kicks, as well as a lot of other things like we talked about. And then on the other side, I think the Reign hold on. They have saved their best soccer for the end of the season. They seem to have figured it out. This lineup, their starting 11, they really just have a good system, and it feels like they know how to play right now. I think both are going to be close, though. I could see both going to overtime. I could see a team scoring late, a flair for the dramatics. But I think the Reign break the curse of we got a bye week, and then we did lose.
I definitely think that Laura Harvey, in learning from last year and just kind of wanting to break that deja vu curse, she will be totally focused on making sure that they get it done.
I couldn't agree more. Well, hey, this was a lot of fun. I think we should do it again.
Maybe we should. Maybe next week.
I'm in. Count me in.
This was our championship chat presented by Nike.
Make sure you stay tuned to Just Women's Sports for all the upcoming action. Thank you for watching us run it back, and we'll see you next Thursday.